We here for the latest, south side or the north side, not tuned to the greatest. Home team for the home teams, both sides got our own rings, on the mound or the long ball, but we don't put the wrong strings, yeah. It's that time of the year now, Wrigley or Ganty, so the whole league that we here now. New show with a new mood, discussions and interviews, trade rumors that might be. This is Pinwheels and Ivy.
Welcome to the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. I'm Aldo, along with Kevin and Mitch. As always, the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast is brought to you by Sports Mockery. Visit sportsmockery.com, download the Sports Mockery app, turn on push notifications, and maybe one of these days, Mitch, we'll find out when Jim Thome is named the next White Sox manager. Again, sportsmockery.com. Let's just jump right in. Mitch, Kevin, shout out to Zoe. And his uncle, I believe it was.
Yep.
Salute to the troops. Zoe will be back next week. But for the past couple weeks, obviously the big news surrounding the White Sox has been their manager search. We saw a report from, John Morosi, that they had good impressions from Espada and Garofol from the Astros and then the Royals, bench coaches. And then randomly, on Tuesday, Scott Merkin, who's the beat writer for the White Sox on MLB.com, from the clouds just drops in with high praise for the nicest guy I think in baseball history. Everybody likes him wherever he went to go play. Jim Thome. He's like, Jim Thome, great guy. He's smart. Knows the team. He has Jim Thome, I think, was hired in 2013 after he retired to be an assistant to Rick Hahn. I think he's done some coaching stuff with in the Futures game, I think. I saw a clip of him in there. But guys, Jim Thome, what? Why?
I feel like we say this every week. That sounds like a typical White Sox move that they would make. Would it shock me if they hired him? Absolutely not. Jim Thome, great guy, good hitter, but the fact that one of the things they come out and say during Rick Hahn's press conference at the end of the year, one of the main qualifications, first one they're looking for, is we're looking for someone with experience. Jim Thome has none. It's the same reason I would rule out Willie Harris. And I think Willie Harris would make a great manager somewhere. The 2023 White Sox, not the right time or place for him to get his first opportunity. It's the same thing with Jim Thome. You used up your mulligan on Tony La Russa. You can't have another experiment with Jim Thome. And I'm not saying Jim Thome can't hold the guys accountable, but he seems kind of like a nice, he's a really nice guy. And that's just, we need someone that can hold guys accountable. And I don't know if Jim Thome's like that guy. Well respected, but it's a weird fit.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of dog going back to its vomit over and over again kind of thing, where it's the White Sox, whether it's the media or whether it's actually the organization or whether it's kind of a combination of both and fan speculation. But they can't not. I don't understand why there's such an aversion to going outside of the franchise. And I said this today earlier. Look, a couple years ago, and I hate to use the Cubs as an example because this really pisses White Sox fans off because we're not the Cubs. But it's kind of like saying if so-and-so had a vaccine that would cure you of all diseases, but you didn't like them, would you still take the vaccine too? Of course you would, because you would, you're going to be healthy. Same thing with the White Sox. The Cubs in 2012, decided we're going to go away from everything that's been Chicago Cubs, and we're going to go with an outside person, Theo Epstein, with zero connection to the Cubs organization, and bring him in and let him do whatever it is that he does so we get a fresh pair of eyes and things can change. And he changed the organization from top to bottom, whether it was the developmental system, from the farm, from the Cubby way. Although you remember the Cubby way was something he would throw out there, which was kind of a cop, the Cardinal way, whatever. But it was kind of like a little troll in there. But he came in and changed everything because it was different. It was not the norm. And I think that it's so weird that, it hasn't worked for 100 years for the White Sox consecutively in a season, postseason berths, in full seasons. They've not made a single 2 years period where they both go back to back in full seasons to the postseason. There's a problem there. And so, again, it's not shocking that people are going to come back to their favorites. God, before Theo Epstein, how many times I called for Ryne Sandberg to be the Cubs manager? I loved Ryne Sandberg, right? Or, same thing. Even Davey Martinez, God, former Cub too, that banged Ryne Sandberg's wife. That would have been weird. But, have all these different, we wanted it in-house. And then having seen Theo just crater it all and say, let's start fresh and plant a new flag because it hasn't been working for 108 years with the Cubs. it worked. And why go back to things that haven't worked and go with the nostalgia part? Instead, go with someone that's going to win. The window's going to close soon, in 2-3 years max, and you need someone to do it now. And you don't go with the first timer, like you said, and you don't go with the nostalgic pick that has zero connection with the players, like an Ozzie Guillen, because that's just moronic. I had a whole conversation about that because, there is still stuff out there of why he was fired in Miami, besides the fact that he endorsed Fidel Castro. That happened. That's why he got fired in Miami too. But there's some the old owner or the president or whoever had some stuff to say that Ozzie Guillen shouldn't be in a dugout ever again, and he said he's happy to tell people why if that comes to that. But there's a lot of that's just that's going back to it's like a comfort blanket, and it's kind of high time that just like with the Cubs, the White Sox go away from the comfort blanket and get someone in that's going to actually flip the tables in the Temple Yard, in the Temple Yard, and start everything fresh and get a real fresh set of eyes in the organization. And that could have been done with Rick Hahn too, but we'll talk about that later.
And I'm a firm believer the manager should pick their own staff. But hypothetically speaking, Jim Thome, you brought him in as the new hitting coach. That's something I can get behind because I do think he knows the game really well. You see him I think he'd be a great hitting coach.
Guys they know a swing. They know a swing.
See, all that you guys said makes sense. Mitch, you brought up how the White Sox already had their fuck up. Jerry had his guy, brought in Tony La Russa, but unfortunately, we are talking about the White Sox, and we are talking about Jerry Reinsdorf because he can just be like, "Yeah, Rick, good job interviewing these guys. Jim, I really like Jim Thome." He can just do it again. He can just do it again.
We played a good round of golf last week. I think he's our guy.
How come nobody is the guy that got railroaded for the job for Tony La Russa in the first place? How come no one's bringing up Ricky Renteria coming back? What the hell?
Beef Love says that Ricky is still the best manager that the White Sox have had for the past 5
years. I love Ricky, and I think he did his job exceptionally well for the time period that he was in. But I don't disagree with the fact that, look, all right, now we're in winning mode. You kind of got your year in 2020. But I love Ricky. I think those guys always play hard, and he made a shitty team for all those years fun to watch because a lot of those guys bought in. But to bring him back as another reacher like that, and I don't think they're going to either. So they're not even entertaining that. But
no, how come I was just wondering why the Sox fans don't go back to that one. Most of them aren't going back to that one. They're going back to Ozzie, who hasn't been in a dugout in 13 years, just as longer than actually Tony La Russa was out of a dugout. They both left the dugout at the same time.
It's because he won. That's why people love winners. No matter I bet you can take a poll of Bears fans right now, and they'd be like, "Yeah, get Ditka back," just because he fucking
Dig up. What's his name's
he wins one Super Bowl, and everyone forgets what an overrated coach he really was. Yeah. I think if we're talking football, Buddy Ryan really carried that team. But we'll go down that.
The city of Chicago, outside of the obviously the Jordan Bulls, with Phil Jackson, I'm sorry to say, it's just a lot of losing. And the Blackhawks had a great run in the 2010s, but man,
it's not going so well. Right?
I wanted to ask you guys. Do you feel that this Jim Thome noise was that just Scott Merkin? Was that a feeler? Was that Jim Thome going to Merkin and be like, "Hey man, bring me up"? Is that coming from Jerry Reinsdorf? Why was this even brought up?
I absolutely. He works for the White Sox. Mm-hmm. He's writing for MLB.com for the White Sox. If it's getting out there, and it's because someone from the front office wants it to get out there. So maybe it is some feelers, but he's not reporting that unless there's some sort of.
I just thought of something. Because I think Scott Merkin is a Michigan man. So is Rick Hahn. They're buddy. This is a little 180 from Rick Hahn. He's leaking the Jim Thome news so that when he hires his guys, he can be like, "No, guys, I put my foot down. I got my guy." This comes from Hahn.
I have to say this though too. The Heat, you're going to hear enough. We've seen enough. Off season when it comes to free agents. This one's going to be a doozy just because there really hasn't been much direction from the front offices of what they're going to be going. Remotely even kind of direction they're going to go with. So it feels like all of this is speculation in a matter of speaking, and although I did hear, and this is a pretty, I would say the person that I got this from is a pretty reliable person. and who they got, because this is coming third hand. So I'll say this is third hand. So this is not me talking to someone directly. This is someone talking directly to someone who then related to me. So it could be absolute like horse pucky. I do trust the person that related to me. And they said that the Ozzy thing is actually gaining steam, which that frightens me a little bit when he told me who told him. And that's a pretty good source as far as White Sox news is concerned. But it could also be he could have also been very well meaning it's gaining steam with fans, not the front office. So I think
they gave him. I do think they gave him an interview out of respect, especially if he wants the job. I don't see him going in that. I don't see that happening. I think they do it just because I think it's clear that he wants the job and he wouldn't be opposed to managing. But
yeah,
I think Jerry, being the loyal guy he is, will grant him an interview, and I think that's where everyone thinks it's gaining steam. But I don't see, because they've had opportunities to hire him in the past, and they haven't.
I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I think by now, they've been at least planning out their whoever they want to interview for now, at least for 3 weeks now. I mean, they've known since Tony La Russa went down with the health issues in late August, that they were going to have a new manager. I think by now we would have had a leak of they're going to interview Ozzy again. I haven't seen it. Most of all of it has just been fan driven.
Yeah, and it's not like Ozzy's been on TV for the last 2 years lobbying for the job or longer.
That's the thing. There is such a bad relationship with him and I think it's with Reinsdorf and Kenny Williams that I think I said last week, I don't think Ozzy is going to be managing the Sox again. The other name, the popular name that also was brought up briefly last week from one report, I think it was the Mike. Oh man, what's his name? It was the Univision guy, but it was Joe Madden. But then Joe Madden went on the radio on 670 The Score on Wednesday. I think he's like, "Yeah, no, I haven't been interviewed, haven't been called, let alone the White Sox, from anyone." So. Hey, for White Sox fans who hated the idea of Joe Madden, it doesn't seem like Joe Madden's on the radar.
I will say it is weird because as much as we do complain about the White Sox, and there's a lot to complain about, they're usually pretty good about leaks. Like the trade with the Cubs a couple years ago, no one knew about it, came completely out of left field. Tony La Russa hiring too was everyone heard about that 2 days beforehand, if that came out of left field. Rick Hahn usually does a very good job of not letting stuff leak out, and now all of a sudden we're getting a bunch of different reports from some guys credible, some not, but there's a lot of leaks out there. So it's telling me that either he wants stuff out or they're not very buttoned up, and either way, I don't like either of it. It's not a good sign.
Kevin, Joe Madden, are you still on the Joe Madden?
I don't think it'd be a terrible thing. I mean, a guy that knows how to win, and
he's a Cub though.
What I mean, again, here we are with this. Don't want the Cubs leave-ins or whatever the hell they want to say. Do you want to win or not? And again, what a manager in this situation, what they do nowadays. I think it's pretty clear now at this point that managers don't make as many decisions as fans think that they do. They're given the lineup by their analytics department. They're given the bullpen that they can use for that day by the analytics department. We have general managers calling down to the dugouts, demanding lineup changes for health reasons and or optics reasons. It's not a manager is dealing with people at this point. Can you command a locker room? Can you, at least in the limited decision-making that you're allowed? I mean, you don't even get to argue ball. You're arguing balls and strikes at this point. And that's basically it. There's a lot of stuff taken out of their hands. And so you need someone that's going to handle people. And do I think Joe Madden can handle people? I think over the course of a 2-year period, that window, yes, because then the shtick wears out after 2 years. But if it's not someone like a Madden, it's got to be someone that can relate to the people, that can motivate, that can have a firm hand, but at the same time, this isn't a generation of players that can handle the Bobby Knight style. That's why, again, the Ozzie Guillen style doesn't work anymore. A guy that's an asshole to his team and his players. I mean, I saw an interview with Ozzie on Showtime that when he was with the Marlins, he was basically telling I can't remember if it was Heath Bell or whatever. Nobody wants to see you pitch. Your family doesn't want to see you pitch. The front office doesn't want to see you pitch. I don't want to see you pitch. Your teammates don't want to see you. I mean, holy hell, you don't say that to anybody ever. And that was him just casually leaning back, playing with his belly button. And I'm like, wow, that's not okay now. That doesn't work. Joe Girardi doesn't work today. It has not worked that way for 2 or 3 years. You need someone that can actually, a guy like a Rich Hill at University of San Diego, guys that are kind of quirky and weird like Madden or Rich Hill that can really resonate with players, and still they give them the firm discipline that they kind of get, and they at least wear it the proper way. The hard-nosed, hard-ass is just it's gone. I don't think that's a style anymore.
Here's where I would push back on Joe Madden, and I agree. Like, there was a period of time he was best manager in baseball, right up there. But you look at the last couple of years with the Cubs, underachieving team twice, and then a massively underachieving team with the Angels. Like, the recent resume doesn't look very good. And so I would argue, I don't think he's a very good fit with the team in general. And you look at his past couple of years, I mean, what have you done for me lately in this business? And the answer with him is not a lot.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, let's be honest. The Angels are a dysfunctional organization from top to bottom.
You think the White Sox are a functional organization?
Maybe you're right there.
You're
walking with dysfunction.
With Joe Madden, you're also talking about a guy with like huge ego who, he's on a media tour, on media blitz like the past month with his book, just shelling out all the details of the time with the Angels. But that's the thing with Joe, like you described it, Kevin, like baseball has changed. The manager they don't have as much say so in the overall process of day by day baseball games, but Joe Madden can't let go of that. Joe Madden still wants that control. It's sad to say, because I do think Joe Madden, like you said, like 5-7 years ago, would be like a number one choice for the White Sox in the same situation. But the time has passed for Joe Madden. It's just sadly like that. We talk about like the game right now. How do you win in the postseason? You have to hit home runs, right? Like, yes, we would like to see hit the ball to every field, steal bases, bunt, but just because you like something doesn't mean that's how you win nowadays. And sadly, the time has passed for Joe Madden. Now, in order to go, go ahead.
No, I say it's a valid point. It's a valid point. I mean, you don't need to be someone yelling at the cloud. And yeah, the analytics department, Jordan Miller, what up, buddy? He's right. There's too many people in the analytics department, but that's not a terrible thing, except when it comes down to the postseason stuff. Like we've talked about, analytics is great for the 162. In the postseason, it's a whole nother beast.
I was going to say that'd be perfect for the White Sox. Yeah, 5.
Yeah, because then once you get to the postseason, we're seeing it, with the Phillies, and we're seeing it with the Padres. It's just who shows up and who's ready to go and who's playing good baseball at the right time. And analytics is so imbalanced because of there's so many bad teams now across the board, especially after the trade deadline, that the analytics are completely skewed because you're beating the hell out of basically a AAA team. In that same analytics, and there's lesser and lesser top tier teams to test yourself against until you test yourself against them in the postseason, which has hurt the White Sox when the Central was bad the last couple of years and they got to the postseason. And I think actually, sadly enough, I think it hurt the Braves a little bit, because I think that NL East was okay but not great, and I think or not the East, excuse me, the Central, excuse me, for the Cardinals it was just weak, and the Cardinals got in there and just got dominated. I mean, it was easy. And so I think that you need the analytics, but you need more, especially the human stuff when you get to the postseason, because the postseason is a very human experience.
All right. So Jim Thome, Garofol, Espada. I'm joking, the Jim Thome thing.
I did throw it out there just making a comment. And I didn't mean to say it that way, but how come nobody is talking about Rich Hill, the head coach at University of San Diego?
Because
he's a college guy.
I mean that has to be it. The White Sox are a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
There's no way Rick Hahn is hitching his wagon to a college coach.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be.
Imagine that.
That would be a little too old, so we're gonna coach something.
That would be the equivalent to like when the Bears try to outsmart themselves, and Phil Emery's like, "Yeah, Mark Trestman is our guy."
Yeah,
you don't want
exactly what that would be.
That would just be like Rick Hahn trying to be the smartest guy in the room. Yeah, no, that would be, again, nothing against Rich Hill. Could be a great coach. Maybe one day, but
he went to USD and now he's in Hawaii. So he took Hawaii.
He's chilling. I bet he wants no part.
Yeah, he's probably smoking weed every day. He did take a college program that was notoriously horrible, and they actually finished third in the Big West with a 28-24 record, which isn't too shabby. But that's 1 year in Hawaii. I don't think. Yeah, I didn't realize he left USD actually until just now. He this was his first year with Hawaii. He left last summer. So never mind. See, I'm out of the recruiting.
Let's get to some player news and rumors. But so let's go forward. Let's go back because Chicago Sun-Times White Sox beat reporter Dara Van Schoen wrote over the weekend or a few days ago how he was the second guy now who's basically said the White Sox are going to move on from Jose Abreu. They're going to put Andrew Vaughn at first base. But he also added this juicy nugget in there that according to his sources back in 2019, the last time Jose Abreu was a free agent, the front office wasn't 100% on re-signing him. And it turns out that it was Jerry Reinsdorf who came down once again, put his foot down, fist in, and said, just offer him this deal. He's coming back. So guys, thoughts? Jerry Reinsdorf was right.
Go Jerry. You know what? The bad move with Tony, the good move with Abreu, I think we net even there. Because if you look at what they got value-wise, like honestly, it was a pretty savvy baseball move. You got an MVP season out of him, led the team in average. I mean, good for Jerry Reinsdorf there. It's weird, though, with the whole thing, because I think at this point we all know he's not coming back to the White Sox. We're talking about the stages of grief last week. Mine are all backwards, because last week I was at the acceptance that he's going to move on, and I was like all sad. Now I'm at like I'm angry. The fact that like it dawned on me his like last game, and he knew it was probably going to be his last name, because I was looking up at some quotes from before the season, and he was saying something alluding to like, oh, like where I'm going to be like next year, like if I'm going to be here like next year. It's like I think he kind of knew the writing was on the wall that we're probably moving on. So I think he knew that was his last game at home, and the fact that he wouldn't even come out even before. If you wanted to sit next to the manager the whole game, like fine, but at least like go out in the field beforehand. Tip your cap, like let everyone say goodbye, and he didn't. That's a cowardly move on his end. Now I'm pissed. I can't be mad at Jose because he's great for us the last 9 years, but I am mad that like no one got the chance to say goodbye to him. And I think as like teammate, and I guess a lot of the players and like coaching staff were like, oh come on, like Jose, like go out and do it, and he just wouldn't do it. He's like, nah, I'm just gonna sit here. He's like, I don't like goodbyes. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. It's not for you. It's for us. Selfishly, I'm mad. Sorry, that was an off on a tangent, but yeah, that's where I'm at in the Jose.
I'll say from the day that happened, like that, I thought like before I knew that it was his decision that he wanted to, I'm like, oh, this is like a bullshit move by the White Sox. Come on, like give the fans one last chance to give him that standing ovation when he comes up to the plate. But then when I was like, oh, he was the guy who's like, yeah, no, I don't want to play this game, and then there's no real acknowledgement to the fans. And then he's just like, yeah, I don't like. That's all his excuse was just like, I don't like goodbyes. It's like, dude, come on, like this is like what you said your entire career how much you love the fans, the city, the team, yeah. And at the end, you're just like, yeah, bye guys. Like you just Irish goodbye to you.
Yeah. Especially he's with the Cubs next year. I'll be like, oh.
So that's part 2 of this. So now we have Bob Nightingale and Dara Van Schoen from the Sun-Times both saying White Sox, they're moving on. Apparently, White Sox have been ready to move on for a few years. And then Bruce Levine, 670 The Score, and also from Marquee was on the radio, 670 The Score on Saturday, I think. And he said, yeah, the Cubs have interest in Jose Abreu. He's going to be on their wish list. And then he wrote an article. I think he had stronger language in there. He's like, they're like at the top of their wish list or something like that. But he basically backed up what he said on the radio. And he's like, Cubs definitely interested in Jose Abreu. Everybody freaks out in Chicago. And as I remind everyone, as we keep seeing these free agent names attached to whatever team, every team is going to be attached to good players because that's what you want. They're not going to sign all of them. Just because the Cubs have interest in Jose Abreu doesn't mean that Jose Abreu is going to have interest in the Cubs. So, we don't have to MF each other yet on Twitter. But Kevin, we've talked about it for weeks. I mean, you brought it up like at the end of the year before this even.
Before they even popped out, yeah.
Yeah, before he even became apparent that he wasn't coming back. But the discourse has been disappointing from some of my Cubs fan base here. The disrespect some of you have been laying on the feet of Jose Abreu has been disappointing, to say the least. It is classic meatball behavior. I will not
Huh?
stand for it. That's the thing. Jose Abreu, he's not perfect. Ground ball machine last year. The power went down, but he still hits the crap out of the ball. He is a solid defender at first base. He increased his walk rate in 2022. He's still good, guys. It doesn't matter that he's going to be 36 because you still hit over 300 and was still, yes, the barrel percentage was down, but like the overall exit velocity, he was just still hitting the crap out of the ball the entire year. Kevin, what the hell's going on with some Cubs fans?
Bro, it's the Anthony Rizzo bias. It's I'd rather have Anthony Rizzo. Oh, he's better. Like, okay, whoa. First off, I love Anthony Rizzo, but let's kind of tap the brakes a little bit. They're both good, but it's weird because Anthony Rizzo ain't coming back to the Cubs. That ship has sailed. That bridge was burned. But I don't get it. It's the same bullshit with like Sox fans not wanting Joe Madden. It's because he was a Cub. It doesn't make any sense. Look, Jose Abreu is a White Sox. Cool. Oh well, he rakes. If the Cubs are serious about contending, a 2-year deal with that dude is going to make it work. And, especially if you have that second-year option, whatever, mutual club option, player option, or whatever, that works great. Sorry. But you just, I don't get it. But it again, it plays into the meatball stuff. Like, again, it's the stuff that, why wouldn't you want a guy that basically is a season and a half removed from an MVP season? Why wouldn't you want a guy that's shown that he can DH, he can play first base, he's a very good teammate, and he's a very good mentor with the guys that he plays alongside? These are all great qualities in a team that's that seeks to contend right now. And if the Cubs make a couple more moves, besides, it's not just going to be Abreu and then take it easy. If their Cubs are meaning business, it's going to be Abreu plus one of those infielders plus another arm. They're going to build something. They're not going to waste any of this stuff. They're gonna go and do it. And so it is a typical meatball stuff. I would take Jose Abreu in a second in that dugout. I would love to have him around for the younger guys. You have a young team, and he could bridge a gap, especially take the pressure off of Matt Mervis. So Matt Mervis doesn't have to be a stud in his first year, which is so messed up that Cub fans, it's like, oh, we got Mervis. So you really think that a guy that's never played a single major league inning, you're going to call him up and expect him to be your superstar?
75% of those people did not know about Matt Mervis until like June.
Exactly. So I don't know. It's Hoshwalk doo-doo.
It's not just Cubs fans, which, by the way, as far as the meatball take goes, you know who else was a White Sox? Sammy Sosa. And look how that worked out for him. Different, I guess, with the trade. But I don't even think it's just like the Cubs fan. He's like disrespected like everywhere. Like White Sox fans were so quick to kick him to the curb. We got Vaughn. We got Sheet. Like even when he was on the team, like there was a constant bitching. Oh, too many double plays. Like no one really appreciated how like great he was. There's a large segment of the fan base on Twitter that was just ready to kick him to the curb like a couple of weeks into the season. He starts slow in April every year, and you always hear the complaining about that. I remember when people wanted him to be traded, like before he had free agency back in like 2019. They're like, oh, we should like trade him now. He's disrespected everywhere he goes, even in the MLB top 100. For a guy that his first 7 years, he had 6 years of 30 plus homers, 100 RBIs. Like those guys don't grow on trees. And he was always like in the wrong half of the top 50, in like my opinion. Especially for a guy that's improved his defense every year. You see what he does in the clubhouse. It baffles me how much disrespect this guy gets from everyone in the city, including his own fans. And I know Twitter's only a small section of the fan base. Like most Sox fans appreciate what he's done, but like he gets disrespected constantly, and he'd be a great fit there. We've talked about it before, but he tends to hit well in Wrigley. He had that one series in 2020 where he had 6 homers, I think, in the span of 3 games. He had 2 or 4 homers in the span of 3 games, and he had 2 in the one game. He hits well at Wrigley. You need a first base and DH guy, and he's cheap. You can build around him for the 2 years. I'll be honest, too. As of right now, where the Cubs are moving forward the next 5 years and where the White Sox are, I'm more optimistic about the Cubs' future moving forward than I am the White Sox right now because we do not have a whole lot of flexibility. Like the big reason they're made Vaughn like the future of their like franchise at first base was because they, especially moving with him going forward now, is because they need the flexibility money-wise. They got a lot of money tied up to a lot of underperforming players right now.
The 2022, like this 2022-2023 offseason for the White Sox is this is like 2019-20 for the Cubs, where you have your core guys. They're making their money now. They're coming off down seasons or like slightly underachieving seasons, but you can't really do a lot. The only difference is that you do have the one guy that, you can move away from and use that money, but then how much do you trust the GM using that money? By the way, for Abreu, wherever he signed, what do you think that contract looks like?
Oh, by the way, I don't know if we touched on this, but the Cubs only have an active salary, and that includes Jason Hayward, by the way, of $91 million for 2023.
The Cubs are spending. Yeah, that's the thing.
Plenty of space there for Abreu, but I think he might end up in Houston. That would be a very good deficit.
I think Miami makes a lot of sense because he lives in Florida during the offseason. I could see him playing there. If he doesn't, he loves playing in Chicago. So obviously the Cubs make a lot of sense. Houston's been throwing up a lot. I feel like if you're Abreu, Houston makes the most sense for him because he plays well in the warm weather. Obviously, Houston, warmer. And if you're gonna he's on the back nine of his career. If you're gonna sign somewhere else in free agency, the Sox don't want you back. Don't you want to win? I feel like that would make the most sense from his end. But yeah, we'll see. I guess
he will probably take less to go to a contender to get that ring, but not much.
If the Cubs do get him, this will be. I mean, it's a little different because it's the example I'm going to use was a starting pitcher, but it's like an older guy but he was still getting it done at an old age. When the Cubs signed, and it meant that the Cubs were serious about still contending. Was after 2015. Cubs losing the NLCS to the Mets. After the season, they have the big offseason of Hayward, Zobrist, and then they also added John Lackey. John Lackey was like 36, 37 years old. They signed him to like a 2-year, $32 million deal to be just to bring another veteran guy to shore up with the clubhouse or whatever, and also bring some more stability to the starting rotation. And although he kind of was a little wonky in 2017, 2016 he was great, fantastic. And that's, again, to me, that's kind of what Abreu is. You know what you're getting in Jose Abreu, a consistent guy. Yes, he's going to start off slow in April or whatever, but then at the end of the year, he's still going to put up numbers.
Winning teams don't gamble. Winning teams don't gamble. They plan on. They don't gamble. They want something that is considered like an obvious choice or a sure thing. They want a sure thing. You know what you're getting with Abreu.
Sure thing in this league than Abreu putting up big offensive numbers. In his down season, he still had 15 home runs, batted over 300, 76 RBIs, which is above average for the majority of the league.
Down season. His down season was like, oh man, this guy walked more and he became more of a contact hitter.
Yeah, right. His strikeout rate was at an all-time low.
Yeah, it was like, oh man, this guy is like. Bum.
He was 6.5 WAR. Was it 6.5 WAR or something?
Now I will say with the White Sox, you're putting a lot of pressure on Andrew Vaughn, and rightfully so. I think they believe in him. The fact that they put him out, they trusted him enough to play him in left field when he'd never played outfield before, barely any time in the minor leagues. So he had to learn how to hit major league pitching, then learn an entirely new position during a season where they're like, "Hey, yeah, it's World Series or bust." Was very telling that he's the future. So I guess it doesn't surprise me that they're moving forward with him. But I'm interested. I know, Fids, you're a big Vaughn guy. What do you think his production looks like next year? Does he take another step, or is what we saw, 285, 17 homers, kind of like what he is? Just another solid guy, but never that superstar, I guess.
I feel like the power numbers are going to go up. I feel like that's probably the thing you're going to see most. I think you're going to see a jump in power numbers. I think that the average... I think I've always thought that he projected as like a 280, like a 285 kind of guy who has the ability to shorten up, but he's also a professional hitter. But I think that the power numbers are something that I've expected to kind of, as he continues to kind of get a little more experience and pitchers start, altering, the good, around the good things that he does, he's going to find new ways to make them pay as well. And that's what good hitters do, which is in the offseason, they don't necessarily reinvent, but they find their holes. And they find what they really want to work on and improve on for the next season, and they go after it. And I think that that's probably for him. Power numbers and actually getting, playing well on the West Coast are two things that I think he wants to work on the most with his offseason. So I think that the power numbers are going to go up. I think you're still going to see a 285 guy, a 280 guy, a guy's going to take walks, but a guy that's going to, I think he's going to start leaving the yard a little bit more. Some of those fly balls to the warning track are going to carry a little bit further, and I think he's going to hit 25 to 30, at least next year. Especially if he stays healthy, I think that's a good projection, like a 280, 285, 30, 30, 34 home runs. I think he'll drive in 100 runs, and I think he'll be a very, very valuable piece. Is that Jose Abreu? That's the question that you ask. And I think Nathan Sheba in our comments asked, if winning teams want predictability, then why not keep Abreu and trade Vaughn for his future value? And honestly, I don't think winning teams that are considered that want to win, they don't let a person like Jose Abreu leave. You don't let a bat like that go out the door. You find a way to make it work inside the construct of your roster, period, because that's too good a bat. And he's too important to like the chemistry in the clubhouse. But obviously, we found out earlier this week, too, that according to one report, that this front office wasn't a big fan of Jose Abreu in 2019, and that it was Jerry Reinsdorf that stepped in and offered him the $50 million three-year deal. So I'm not entirely sure Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams know what the hell they're doing in that sense, too, because they had an MVP in their midst, and they couldn't even self-identify. So here they are not self-identifying again.
I do feel like that part of that source that might have been taken a little to the extreme, because all it said was like the front office wasn't 100% on board. It wasn't like he said like the White Sox front office were ready to move on from Jose Abreu, and the only reason that he stayed was because Jerry Reinsdorf was the one who to offer the deal. All it said was just like they weren't 100%.
But that read to me like Jerry Reinsdorf was the one that said, no, here, this is.
I think that ultimately
I think it was mostly the extension. They were when the chairman had the extra 2 years with the extension, and that's where Jerry came in and said, "This is what we're gonna do." But I mean, if Vaughn hits 275 and the power numbers go up a bit, I mean that's solid. And you have to remember too, he's not gonna have to worry about playing left field. He's a very solid first baseman. I think he's better defensive first baseman than people give him credit for, because mostly he only played 17 games there last year and he was so bad in the outfield, but he's a very good defender. So what messed it up, especially with going back to the point of good teams keep reliable guys with Abreu, Eloy Jimenez really mucked the whole thing up by the ability to not stay healthy and play crappy left field, because then you have Vaughn at DH with Abreu, and you can platoon the two. The fact that Eloy could not stay healthy, but then went on a tear the back half of the year, it's like, well, we're not getting rid of him. He's still young, and he's got a future, but he can't play the outfield. That's what screwed this whole thing up. If he could have shown the ability to play outfield, wouldn't be having this conversation.
So maybe we should start framing this not as the White Sox chose Andrew Vaughn over Jose Abreu. Maybe we should really frame this as, in the end, the White Sox chose Eloy Jimenez over Jose Abreu, considering it's really Eloy's fault that any of this is an issue, because he can't stop, dislocating his shoulder. By the way, Houston just all of a sudden hitting long balls. It's 3-1 now. Two jacks in the class in like 5 pitches.
Ball go far, team go far. The Eloy thing, it's funny how you said like if he was just, he didn't even have to be a good defensive outfielder. Like he could have been Andrew Vaughn. He could have been the worst rated outfielder. It's just like don't get hurt trying to catch a ball, and he just kept doing that. Like the bare minimum was just don't get hurt, and he just kept getting hurt. Like Eloy could have been shit, but they could have been like, all right, fine, you're still healthy, you're playing 140 games, you're hitting 40 home runs. We don't care that you're just shit in left field, and then you still have Abreu back, you still have Vaughn at first base, everything works out. But then Eloy misses half the season for like 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
The other thing with the what else do we have here? Let's see. Mailman Jack. Trade Hendricks, keep Abreu, Raylo closer, Vaughn DH. Zoe has been on the trade Hendricks train too, and giving the closer job to Raylo. That's a big gamble.
It is. It depends what you're getting back, and I don't know how much you're getting back for a closer that's had the arm, red flags that we've seen this past year. And he's excellent, but I mean, I'm not just trading him for nothing. He's still one of the best closers in the American League. So, and I don't think relievers are going to net you anything of value. Like, what are you getting for a Liam Hendricks without
magical?
Like
magical. Wait, no, never mind.
Actually, you know what, Kevin? Good segue, because we had this question from one of our listeners, Wayne, on Twitter this week. Asking about Nick Madrigal. What are the Cubs going to do with him? What the trade value is for him? What is the trade value for Nicky Two Strikes?
I think it varies based on moves I think that if Madrigal gets traded, I don't think he's going to go early in the offseason. I think that the Cubs are going to have to secure the middle first. And if they don't secure any of the big name free agents, whether, again, I'm still anti Nico Horner leaving short, but I'm sure that there's that contingent of Cubs Twitter that has, that the same ones that undervalued KB the whole time and was doing KB trades the whole time. Now it's Nico Horner is going to move to second base and we're going to line one of these. They're taking Nico's defense for granted. Either way, Nico's going to do what he's going to do because he's a good dude. He's a good team player. He'll play wherever he wants. I think it's a downgrade if he leaves shortstop for any one of those. We've seen Trey Turner in the postseason. He filled the baseball like a clown all season from Dodger fans, apparently. He's been terrible defensively. Dodger fans have been bitching about it now. I didn't realize it was that bad. So his defense is a downgrade. He can move to second, pay him a little more. Correa can move to third, pay him a little more. But Nico would move to second if need be. Landing one of those free agents of those three, Bogarts, Correa, or Turner, inadvertently is going to pretty much put an end to the Nick Madrigal era with the Cubs. But he's got a cheap contract, $700. He's arbitration eligible for the next 4 years. He's a $700,000 a year contract. It's inexpensive with team control. That's a little bit value. I think the Cubs maybe had hoped that he would really play well and stay healthy, for the whole stretch, and that would give him a little bit more market value. But I think he's part of a package deal, maybe for a team that's trying to shed some salary. That's again, I threw it out there. If the Cubs went crazy and went after Shohei, they've got a lot of prospects. They could probably throw Wisdom over there, as a first base option. But Madrigal could also go and they could take the payroll of their second baseman now. I forget his name now, or their shortstop now,
David Fletcher.
Fletcher. They sent him to a contract a couple years ago, and he had a really good year, and he hasn't posted a 1.9 or better WAR since in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and he's getting paid a lot to do little. So I think that payroll shedding makes him a valuable piece to a team that's trying to shed some payroll. But maybe you can package
That's not
him.
that crazy though. I think his deal was like 5 years for $26 million.
It's still money for a guy to not really do much.
It's not terrible.
But
It's not paying him that much. I feel like you could use worst case scenario because you're really in no rush to trade him. There's no reason to trade him. Why not just use them as like a Yuri Garcia role? He could be a solid guy off the bench. Doesn't strike out much. There's some speed. He wouldn't have to play as much, so you don't have to worry about the injury thing. Worst case scenario, if you were not able to trade him, what's wrong with having a Nick Madrigal on your bench?
That's what really sucked about the whole Nick Madrigal thing. It's just dude's been hurt for just all the time.
And he started playing well again. He started getting hot again.
He got high. He had like a 7. He finally had an OPS above 700 in August or July, whenever it was.
It was August, because he got banged up again in September.
Yeah, August, and then even the first couple weeks of September, and then he gets hurt again, and then they shut him down, and it's God, this was it. This was the finally a healthy Nick Madrigal. He had the time at AAA that some of us were talking about. Okay, maybe he needs to clear his head because he was awful, but also maybe that's because he was coming off surgery in the off season or last year. So he wasn't maybe 100% healthy. So he had the excuses, valid ones, new team, feeling the pressure of that. He had all the things. And, for the most part, I think fans were willing to give him somewhat of a break. But just he was on the injured list 3 times. 3 separate times, missed big chunks of the season. And then, Morel put up decent numbers his rookie year. That took away the whole, Nick Madrigal, because now you have a guy who just came out of nowhere. That basically kind of. But that's the thing. Even Morel, I've said it a couple weeks ago. I don't really want Morel being the option to be an everyday starter either. Mm-hmm. I think his versatility is his biggest attribute. But it's just sad for Nick Madrigal because this was a guy who he showed he could hit, and then
it's frustrating because you want him to do it so bad now at this point. You want him to prove the haters wrong, but. And again, his early injuries weren't soft tissue things. He got his hand stepped on, he broke his thumb or whatever. That's not a you're soft. That's a broken bone. What do you? Unless you're the dude from Glass and or from Unbreakable, and you fall down the stairs and you break 75 bones. That's just a freak injury. But then you get the soft tissue stuff. Then you get the ankle stuff. Then you're oh my god, can you just do one? It's like Saquon Barkley in the NFL. We're starting to see what happens when Saquon Barkley gets a full season, if he does, but it's only week 6. So now we're going to week 7, so he's due now. But, God, you think of how well how much he could play if he's playing every day. And again, the reps are so important. There was no pressure on him because the Cubs were so bad, and it just physically didn't work out again. And so, it's a very painful thing to observe because he hasn't shown his ass. He's always been a class act. He's never, been a dick or, rude or. spit back and act like a douche on Twitter, or slapped his girlfriend. He's never been those types of things, but it's just it's just frustrating because he's not really getting it done. And there was a lot, again, where he was drafted. Again, if you draft a guy in the first round, the goal should be that they're going to be a regular contributor on a major league team. That's what a first round pick should do.
4th overall pick.
Yeah, how many first round picks or number 1 overall picks are in the Hall of Fame?
1.
I think it's 1 or 2. Yeah, it's like it doesn't really happen.
Really?
So, and Bryce Harper's headed there though. So we'll get.
But like you said, at this point, scouting has advanced so much in the past, even decade, that when you are picking that high, you do expect a guy to at least be a contributor. He doesn't have to be great every year or be the superstar, but you do expect him to contribute something. And I mean, again,
if he had been healthy, though, he would have been a contributor. Like he was contributing on the White Sox. Like July, he was one of their best hitters before he got hurt. Diane's the same thing, like you said with the Cubs. He was starting to heat up. That's the only reason he hasn't been a contributor. Like he's not.
I like that's the thing. I don't think he's completely like. I saw some people be like, Nick Madrigal is going to be out of baseball in a few years. I don't think he can. No. He can still hit. He can still hit. But man, I don't know. It's fine. Is he still getting like treatment from the White Sox or something? Because
but you can't see that is. And when with the trade bait stuff too with him, the one thing that a franchise that again is quite a ways away from contending, a Madrigal probably fits a little bit of a need. If they have like a bigger superstar name that they need to get out and get, the Cubs could go maybe get someone. I unfortunately Josh Bell's gone from the Pirates, but like those types of guys, like a guy that's out, someone maybe that stands out or that is an up and comer for some of these franchises that are just half a decade away from really figuring it out. That might be a move because it's a cheap contract for them while they continue to figure it out. But I don't know. It's.
I think this has been the most popular team. In terms of like Cubs fans trying to think of a trade for Nick Madrigal, and that's to the Oakland A's. Because again, Oakland A's very cheap. Of course, they'd like a player who's still under team control for like 4 more years. Cubs, they have Wilson Contreras. They're going to offer him the qualifying offer. There's really no indication right now if he's going to accept or not. I think the qualifying offer this year is going to be like at $19.5 million.
Yeah, 19.8.
Okay, so almost $20 million. I don't know. I'm kind of interested if he would take. I don't know. He's going to be 31, a catcher. That's tough.
Well, I told you how I feel about the qualifying offer. It's a dick move because now he doesn't get to get really wined and dined because the QO now has the draft pick attached and nobody wants really to touch that. So he's not. 19.8 is a lot for him.
It is. I mean, he's not going to get that on an AAV for any deal that he signs.
But then again, Jed said they were going to qualifying offer him. I'll believe it when I see it.
That'd be tough though. That'd be tough because he publicly said it. This wasn't a report.
But he could say that we went back and looked at it, and intelligent spending said that it wasn't an investment.
That's true. That's true. The way these guys talk now, they can work around anything they said directly.
Take a page out of the Rick Hahn lawyer school.
Of course, I said we'd be crazy to not do it, but guess what? We're crazy. Like, there's your loophole. Look, here's a
so Madrigal for Sean Murphy, good catcher for the Oakland A's. Cubs have Yan Gomes right now for a couple more years. They have PJ Higgins. Miguel Amaya, he was a top prospect a couple years ago, but he had Tommy John surgery, and then I think he had a knee injury after he came back in 2022. So he's not really in the picture anymore, which is sad. Again, you can never really bank on prospect guys.
No.
So that would be an interesting thing. I don't know if the A's would want. They probably want more just because of Madrigal's injury history. But that's definitely a name. Sean Murphy, outside of Madrigal being in that possible trade proposal brought up by Garrick McEwen here in our comments, I think Sean Murphy could be an offseason target for the Cubs. Cubs do need again, because Wilson Contreras, he's most likely gone. I do think a team will try to sign him to like a 3-year deal, 4-year deal. Again, he's not getting. I don't think he'll get the Grandal contract even. Because what was Grandal's 4 for 73?
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think
that's
for
like a left-handed bat. That's for a left-handed bat too. Like,
and good defender, good pitch framer. That's the other thing about Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras at one time he took strides. I think it was in 2020 to 2021. He took strides because that was the big complaint about him. He was a terrible framer. You loved his athleticism behind the plate, but terrible framer. Questions about game calling. He took strides, got a little better, but it kind of just plateaued. And I love Wilson, love the energy, love the passion, the good hitter.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, you really are kind of you're going to be paying him mostly for him to DH.
I have to think too that the way the Cubs put him in bubble wrap for the last almost feels like a year and a half, where he hasn't been catching more than 50-60% of the games.
Because he's not good at it.
You're not sharp though, but it also could be sharp. Iron sharpens iron. And he's not out there doing it every day. So,
that's tough though, because he's been doing it since 2016. It's not like this was year 2 and they're like, you're done. Like he had his chance.
You knew what he was at that point. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. You don't tend to get a better.
I was always a defender. Like even with the electronic strike zone coming, I was like, yeah, fuck, who the fuck cares if he's a bad framer or not? Because they're going to be called by robots anyway. But it's the other stuff too, just like handling the staff. Some of those numbers can also be skewed because, what if he's catching crappy pitchers? They're gonna have a worse ERA with him.
It's true.
So I don't know.
Or can't hit their spots, or there's a lot that goes into it. But
some of those things are a little funky to see. But there is a difference in defensively when we saw Wilson Contreras and a guy like Yan Gomes, a veteran guy who's defense first, a little production with his bat, and he kind of turned around at the end. But I think the Cubs are going to be in the market for a catcher. Christian Vasquez, who's got traded to the Astros from the Red Sox in the middle of the year, he said, I saw a story in MLB Trade Rumors how he was like, yeah, I kind of wish I was playing more, and he's going to be a free agent. He's like, yeah, but I'm going to want to go to a team that's going to be give me more playing time. The Cubs can split those catching duties with him, so I think that's a name to look out.
He was really well liked too in Boston before he got traded. They were pissed. Because I remember reading when McGuire went up there, and there was an article written, and they were saying there's nothing against Reese, but they're like, yeah, he was a really good locker room guy. They were not happy when he got traded. So talking about good fits in the clubhouse, could be some of these pickup for the Cubs.
There's some of these catcher names that are out available as a free agent. You got Contreras, Mike Zunino, from Devil Rays, right? From the Rays.
Yes.
Yep.
Zunino. You got Omar Narvaez. Gary Sanchez.
I like him too, Narvaez, former Sox.
He was a stud.
What is Gotti? Isn't he Gotti the World Baseball Classic coach for
Puerto Rico? Yeah.
But then you look at everything else, and it's like Austin Hedges minus 0.5 WAR, Stephen Voigt 0.6.
He's retiring.
Okay, Kurt Suzuki minus 1.3. So there's not a lot of
the last 3 guys you named are retiring.
Yeah,
I think it's Voigt, Suzuki.
There isn't a single catcher. There's 2 catchers with a WAR over 4, and not a single catcher. There's only 2 with a WAR over 3, excuse me, and only 4 catchers that had a 2.0 WAR or better in 2022. So not a great market.
What if I think the bigger names are going to be, well, not bigger names. I still think Narvaez, I think he's coming off a down year offensively. I think he's been very solid since he was with Seattle and then the Brewers last few years. I saw something on Bleacher Nation. The Toronto Blue Jays have insane catching depth. They have 3 legit starting options, and they could be looking to trade out. They have Alejandro Kirk, Danny Jensen. I forget the third guy's name. He was a rookie who came up, and he mashed. That could be a thing. Maybe I know there was talks about the Cubs were thinking about having contract extension talks with Ian Happ and Nico Horner, but Ian Happ was in trade talks all summer long. Toronto was one of the teams that was interested. Maybe you work out a deal there. Maybe, possibly.
You got to find something, and that backstop. Remember back in the day when I don't know, it was 2 years ago when it only mattered. A catcher was a good defensive catcher. If they hit 180, who gave a shit? The current Cubs manager, made a living as a catcher as a 180 hitter. You take the good defense and you say, fuck it, we're gonna especially with the DH now, we'll take that little gaping hole in the 8-hole at this point. And as long as you can, be a great handler of pitchers, because it does matter. It's a very important integral part of the game is how your guy behind the dish, how your backstop handles your staff. But,
And right now, the Cubs' strength is their pitching.
Yep.
So
You
that
need
is a big part of what they need. I did want to bring this up, another Cubs thing. So Kevin, you laid it out perfectly. How if you're a competing team, you're looking to compete. You want to narrow the margin of errors. You want as many sure things as you can get. The Cubs are going to be in the market for starting pitching. I think there's saw a report, Maddie Lee from also the Chicago Sun-Times. She said last week that the Cubs were going to be in contact with Drew Smyly, try to re-sign him. I think that'd be a solid move. A lefty starting pitcher. He was great when he wasn't injured this year. So that'd be a solid move for the back end of the rotation. But they still need a top guy.
Yeah.
The two biggest names that they've been linked to so far have been Carlos Rodon. He's going to get a qualifying offer after he opts out with the Giants. So you have to worry about the draft pick compensation. But again, Cubs, if they're serious, they shouldn't really worry about whatever draft pick they're going to lose. Because I think it's going to be after the second round or something like that, or after the first round. I forget.
But you also think that if they lose Wilson, they get that comp pick back.
They do. They get. I think that's the one. If they lose Wilson and then he signs with a qualifying offer, they'll get a pick after the second, just because they're a bigger market team.
Another Jack.
Astros.
Oh my God, he hit the train track. Montes.
Oh, there you go.
No, Pena. Excuse me, Pena off Montes.
Pena? Oh man, Pena. Ooh, Montes. Remember that move was great. Yes. So for the Cubs, Carlos Rodon, apparently interest there from the Cubs, and then the other big free agent name so far, at least that they've been linked to, is from Japan, Kodai Senga. He's going to be 30, I believe. He's been just elite pitcher for 10 years. I think he's coming off like a sub-2 ERA in 140 innings in 2022. Like 159 strikeouts to 50 walks. Great control, doesn't give up home runs. But Kevin, like you said, you want as many sure things as you can get. Yes, he's a star in Japan. How will he translate to MLB? Do you have enough trust in the Cubs scouting that if they believe that they're going to commit a big amount of money to this guy, that yes, they do believe he is in? Chicago Bulls, whatever. Bulls win?
Yeah. Let's take an in game at almost plus 200.
There you go, Kevin. Are the Bulls better with that Zach Levine?
No,
Not
good on
it's
that.
true.
Go to Wade. Let's not.
I mean, the data shows, Mitch. They're 1-0 without him. That's a 1,000 winning
He came
percentage.
out of his shoes on that swing. Holy fuck.
So Kevin, do you want? And that's the thing. Carlos Rodon really, is he a sure thing because he does have injury history. But so do you take that over Kodai Senga coming over from Japan? If you're the Cubs, who is your preferred target?
Well, both have a risk. One is a health risk. One is a adaptivity to the major league game risk. We've seen pitchers come over from overseas that were great, like Ohtani, and you've seen some that came over that were not so great. So, you gotta just which one gives you the least amount of risk and the most acceptable floor. And I think they have commiserate ceilings, to be honest. But which one has the floor? Is the injury worries less important than can this guy get outs at the major league level? At least with Rodon, he can get outs when healthy.
But I'll tell you, speaking if I'm the Rickett family, I know who I'd want to be Senga, because he's getting all these Japanese baseball players bring with them a huge following and a huge fan base. See how big Ohtani is. You bring in another one, you're getting a lot of money there.
Imagine if they trade for Ohtani and then they sign him and they've got Seiya. I mean,
they're sitting on a gold mine for marketing.
Well,
you're the Houston Rockets of.
Hey, well, who's Carlos Rodon bringing in for marketing? His wife has some fun tweets. That's about
there you go.
Other than that,
we had to already deal with what's his name's Sogard's wife on Twitter. We don't need any more. We're good.
God. I was gonna say a little background stuff with that. Talking about Senga, Ohtani, and Seiya Suzuki. Kodai Senga, he's signed with the Wasserman Group, who that agency represents Yu Darvish, who gave advice to Seiya Suzuki under the same agency, who I also think represents Shohei Ohtani. So, Yu Darvish are basically, I think Seiya Suzuki was between the San Diego Padres and the Chicago Cubs. And Yu Darvish had dinner, a meeting, talk with Seiya Suzuki. Again, Yu Darvish, a member of the San Diego Padres, was that, yeah, dude, Chicago is great. You would love it there. Go there. So, hey, you start talking to Senga.
Doing some recruiting.
And then start. Oh, by the way, Shohei Ohtani already criticizing the Angels. Had a bad taste left in his mouth after
Hold on.
2020 season. All right, what was it, Ken? Because again, I did only read the headline.
Let's pump the brakes and not read the headline.
I only read that.
He said, okay, first off, translation, but he said, and I quote, he said it was a good season for me personally. He said,
"Oh wow, he's a me guy."
I have a rather, we lost, we're not able to play as many good games as I would like, including 14 consecutive losses. And then he said, so I have a rather negative impression of this season.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what was taken into context. I have a negative impression of this season. Guess what? If you're on the Cubs, doesn't everybody in that clubhouse have a negative?
Have you heard the guys talking? That second half,
you didn't win. We were on a 500 team. I have a negative impression of you. If you don't think that you have a negative impression of the season, he was basically saying it sucked.
Nico Hoerner was fucking up his guys.
But this is a great way for the media to jump into this. It sells, gets clicks. It's not. I assure you that Ohtani's not bad mouthing the Angels. I don't think the dude's got a bone like that in his body. But he's okay to say I'm not stoked about this season because it sucked. We didn't go to the playoffs. We started out strong. We were in first place and we faded. My manager got canned, and it was we had a GM that's a jackwagon who put his locker in the coach's locker room with his assistant. This is weird shit going on. It's not fun there. But
no, you're
was talking about the wins and the losses, especially in the context of the whole quote. I don't think, but that doesn't mean he doesn't want to be a Cub. I mean, I can put words in his mouth too.
By the way,
I think he named his dog Wrigley.
Cubs, when Shohei Ohtani was coming over from Japan, the Cubs were in his top 6. He did like the Cubs, but he just wanted to feel more comfortable being on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So he does have a familiarity with the Cubs, likes the Cubs, knows about Chicago.
Loves deep dish. Loves tavern style. I heard he loves tavern
style. That's what
loves tavern style.
I was gonna say, any times when it comes to especially when you translate quotes from a different language, like a lot, we're going off like Google Translate.
It's just a disingenuous part of the media.
This is why he doesn't speak to the media very often. You hear a lot of complaints about it because whenever he does,
taken out of context,
he's taken out of context. People run with it, so I don't blame him for not wanting.
No.
But Mitch, I wanted to ask you. We brought him up briefly earlier. So I mean, let's just take away from the reports that because it does seem like the White Sox are just going to hand the reins at first base to Andrew Vaughn. But outside of that thinking, Anthony Rizzo is going to opt out because he had a monster year with the Yankees. Would you sign him if he became available and was interested?
No, it makes no sense. If you're getting rid of Abreu, why are we bringing in another first baseman? I thought the whole problem was we had too many first basemen. At that
just
point,
move Andrew Vaughn back to right field.
And it's nothing against Anthony Rizzo. He's having a fine season. His power numbers are back up. Good for him. But it makes no sense. The people that say bring back Bell or bring in Rizzo, why are we getting rid of Abreu at that point? Because we can get him.
Rizzo can't play the outfield either.
Exactly.
Right.
He could put on his little Chris Elliott Scary Movie 2 glove.
We're going to teach you how to play center field. You're
you can pitch though. Rizzo can pitch.
Though they were saying, Chuck Garfien was talking on his podcast that there was rumblings before he signed with the Yankees that Rizzo was not opposed to signing with the White Sox. He was very intrigued to come to the South Side. So
he left Chicago. He left Chicago. Yeah.
By the way, I got to figure out. I told you this on their DMs. I'm trying to figure out who this ex-Cub that's getting married the weekend of November 5th and 6th is. I'm going to really dig deep on this because
Ex-Cub?
we lost 2 golfers for our golf tournament, Dexter Fowler and obviously KB. They both can't make it. They're both going to the same wedding. It has to be a former Cub, right?
Matt,
So it has to be someone from the 2015 or 16 team because that's when Dexter Fowler was with the Cubs.
I'm trying to do some math here. Like Ben Zobrist going to renew his vows with crazy,
I hope not, just for Ben Zerbert's sake. Who was on that team? Oh, well, I mean, David Ross did get divorced recently, and I think, is he with somebody?
That could be.
Even though that would be very tricky saying ex-Cub because he's currently the manager of the Cubs.
I know I could just probably ask, but I think being a detective is way more fun. So,
Mitch, second base. I was looking at second base options. Again, they're pretty crappy, but I thought this name was pretty interesting. I think he can. I think it has to come from the team being kind of cheap sometimes. But Colton Wong from the Brewers. I think the Brewers have a team option on him. He had a good year offensively, bounce back year.
Yeah, club option.
Great defender at second base, lefty bat.
5.0 WAR, 5 WAR.
Given the options we have, I wouldn't be. I mean, there's not a whole lot of good options.
There's not.
I don't know. Those guy Adam Frazier's a free agent.
There you go.
4.7 WAR. Hello.
Yeah. I would take Colton Wong over the alternative, which has been like, hey, maybe we can teach Elvis Andrews to play second base.
Jonathan VR. Hey.
Kevin, remember we thought Jonathan VR was going to be the guy at third base?
For like 4 days.
Hand up, a little wrong on that one. Got cut by 2 teams this year, I think. I think he also got cut by the Angels.
The fact that they're not going to, the second base probably won't be solved. Like, honestly.
No, come on, Mitch. It has to because I think the plan right now is I think they're going to count on like Sheets to begin, and then they're going to be like, all right, Oscar Colas, you're the guy in right field.
Yeah,
like eventually, I think that is their plan. I think that's what
he started the season in right field.
So I think like the main, and like obviously they're going to have Vaughn at first base. Eloy's going to be DHing a lot, and then AJ Pollock is probably going to opt back in. And he's going to be the left fielder unless they trade him. But then, there is only one space that you would need to fill, and that is second base. That makes it very easy for Rick Hahn. Hey, Rick, just focus on second base. Like they have to, right? They have to.
No, not really. They can be like, Mendick looked pretty good before he went down with injury. I mean, we'll give him a guy. I like Danny Mendick, but he's not. I don't know if I want to trot him out all 162 games. I mean, he can lawyer talk his way into promoting someone within the organization, and like Danny Mendick right now, I think would have, like as Brian said in the chat, like he's probably gonna get a good shot. Like probably gonna be the starting second baseman.
Well, that's sad.
Peace out.
That reminds me of back in like 2016 when I think it was Tyler Saladino. He was given the shot at what was it, third base maybe or shortstop?
He played a couple different spots. He came up as a third baseman, and then they were playing him at short before Tim Anderson.
Yeah, and I think I remember I was writing some like preseason, just like season preview for the Sox, and I was like, "There's no way the Sox are going to be good because like, how the hell are you counting on Tyler Saladino?" And like, you would be surprised, but there is some diehard Tyler Saladino fans out there who are like, "No, he's good."
Hey, I like Tyler Saladino. He had the mustache. He fit with that crappy team. Like, that was a fun guy to root for. Like, he knew he wasn't very good, but damn it, he was one of our guys. He had the cool mustache. I can't
stop. Would you guys say Tyler Saladino? And all I hear in my head is Obi-Wan Kenobi, Tyler Saladino. Now, that's a name I've not heard. The Samsung Lions or the KBO. That's right. That's right. The KBO, he hasn't played. So he got cut from the Samsung Lions in 2020.
I mean, that's going to be us in a few years coming. We're like, remember Frank Schwindel? Remember that guy?
About that. And it's part of the reason they're getting rid of, like, they're not bringing back Abreu. Maybe they truly are going to have a major shakeup. Like, he's like, all right, this clearly didn't work. We're blowing it up. Because there was a report that only 2 guys were untradeable, and it was Vaughn and C. So maybe they shock us all, and they make a big trade, and it's not the same old White Sox lineup they trot out. So hold out a little bit of hope. We shall see.
Side note, guys, is it me or does Aaron Boone look like Andy Serkis, the guy that played Gollum in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Every time I see a picture of him, I'm like, Andy Serkis, wait, what? So here, let me just do a little quick. Is Andy Serkis, is Aaron Boone actually the CGI version of Gollum? And so, hold on, let me just. So this is Andy Serkis, right? Okay. Keep that in your head. Now this is Aaron.
Our podcast listeners.
Yes, podcast people, use your imagination.
Kevin, you have to describe their faces.
All right, so and then there's Aaron Boone. Like,
I don't know.
I'm on TV. I've seen Andy Serkis enough, like shaven, that I'm like,
maybe the mouth.
It's his nose.
What
It's
that
the nose.
mouth
Actually.
do?
It's the nose.
We gave Gollum a Yankee hat. Maybe I can see it.
Well, he doesn't look like Andy Serkis. Doesn't look like Gollum either, and he's actually pretty swole. Actually, he's not an ugly dude.
By the way, you brought up the Yankees. I think we mentioned it at the end of the year when Aaron Judge was going for the Yankees home run record. Roger Maris Jr. I said at the time, like, yeah, he's like subbing up for his dad. Like, that's fine, whatever. But he tweeted out Wednesday morning, like, it was so nice to see that the all-time single-season home run leader in the NL hit a home run, Giancarlo Stanton, and the all-time season home run leader, Aaron Judge, hit a home run. It was so good to see. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. You're like, your time is done. You had your like week where you got to pop up your dad. You had the real home run record. Just go away, dude.
Calm your shit, bro. You are somebody's sperm. Act like it. Relax, bro. You haven't hit a curveball that far in your life, so relax. Okay? You are literally the fastest swimmer in a sack. That's what you were. Okay? Congratulations. You're fast. So no, that stuff's so insane. Like, again, well, we can. That's a debate for, I'm sure, another day when we have nothing to talk about in the off season. But come on.
I saw that. All right, playoff talk. Has anything surprised you guys?
Yes. The Padres, their pitching is held up. I was pounding the table since the trade deadline saying they don't have enough pitching. I was wrong. Would not be the first time. But yeah, they look pretty good. So I mean, the Phillies have been kind of surprising too. So
how about that?
This is a perfect example. Just relating it back to our teams. All you have to do is just get in there. You have a shot. You're always going to have a shot.
How many times have we said that on the show? We've said that. Just get there. And then just get out of them. Yep. And how about 111 wins? The Dodgers. This is great because the Dodgers won the most games in franchise history. 111 games. Bye.
That's the thing. Like the Dodgers, I hate the talk of like, oh, look at the Dodgers. They just choke artists. Guys,
it's hard.
It's just hard. It's just a fucking random. It's the most random thing. I know everyone says like, oh, NHL, the playoffs, you always get the huge upsets. And yeah, that is true. Like the MLB playoffs are kind of the same, guys. Like the best team rarely wins.
Were the Cubs the last? No, was it Cubs or the Astros the last best record to actually win the World Series? And how many wild cards? How many wild cards have won it in the time in 20 years? How many wild cards compared to best record in baseballs have won? I don't know the number, but I'm sure that wild cards are pretty close. Mm-hmm. And now, especially this year, you're going to get at least one wild card in the World Series. So,
I mean, I think I definitely remember the Giants winning it as a wild card. I think the Marlins in 2003, they were a wild card.
28.
I know the Royals made it as a wild card to the World Series.
I mean, this year, one of the NL teams is going to be a wild card team.
There you go. The 2018 Red Sox. They had 108 wins.
There you go.
They finished first. They won the World Series over the Dodgers, who won. But the Dodgers had. Wait, did the Dodgers have the best record in baseball, though? No, they had 92 wins. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, the most wins. Yeah, there you go.
It's like that, and that's the other Dodgers thing. I think the Dodgers, I mean, they've won the division how many years in a row?
Anthony Rizzo just hit a homer.
I won't say that. Kind of a hot take here. I like Bob Costas, especially when he called the final out and goes, perhaps the only one that deserves the mockery is Naylor. I was like, yes. I agree with that call. And I enjoy all the jokes on Twitter about him. I think he's constant entertainment. You listen to him go off on the tangents, some random stories. He's a very comfortable boy.
Mitch, I think in a 1-game sample, yes, but if you hear him, like if it's a 5 or a 7-game series and you hear him every day,
No, it's a bit much.
it's just Bob Costas loves himself some Bob Costas.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh. Have you seen some of these tweets though?
Back to shade at Josh Naylor, who is the White Sox biggest pain in the ass probably all season. But we've talked about him on the show, how we don't like him. And the final call of that series was about mocking Josh Naylor, made up for all of the long soliloquies that went on.
By the way,
throughout
Josh
that series.
Naylor.
These tweets. So Bob Costas. Glass will finish the game, just like the sand slipped through the hourglass on a season. So too, this occurs in the endeavor that we call life. It's not just the winter of the Guardian season, but also humanity. Ron Darling, that last pitch was a cutter.
You can just Google, search on Twitter Bob Costas and have like a field day with everyone like writing up these things.
It is. They're all over here. Like we've been here in Cleveland, where the slight autumn chill and the air is bleak reminder of the chilling fact that each day we are spiraling towards the unavoidable conclusion we call death. Ron Darling, I think he knows fastball here.
I mean,
So good.
With Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor is the guy. Obviously, everybody outside of Cleveland like hates him, laughs at him. It's like you're a fucking dickhead. However, I do have to say, Josh Naylor, he can give it out and he can take it too, because he said after the game when the Yankees fans were mocking him, you know, when Gleyber Torres was making fun of him too. He said like, yeah, I mean, I had all of Yankee Stadium on me. I dreamed that as a kid. I mean, obviously, you know, a little bullshit there because obviously he would want to win. But as I always say, as long as you give it out, but you can take it, it's all fair game. This is what it's all about. That's why he was an asshole because again, that home run that you get hit off of Garrett Cole and he's like, "You're my baby, you're my son," whatever. Like that was a home run to cut the lead. Like that wasn't even to tie the game. That wasn't to put your team ahead. Like that was just an all like, look at me, guys, which is fine. But you are open to getting mocked like
Absolutely.
straight to hell, and he did. But he still took in stride.
Zoe will be happy to know, by the way, Josh Donaldson has 3 Ks tonight. He will like that. The best call ever from Bob Costas, unfortunately, is this.
It's not Bosio this time. It's Madden, and that means a change.
I know.
Oh, yeah. Well, wait for it. Come on, Bob.
Mott is on his way in. Strope is on his way out, pointing toward the heavens. We can only ask or wonder that he is asking some departed relative for forgiveness for this atrocious performance.
Oh my God.
Awkward silence too, right? Like after that, before they cut the break, like you can tell they're like, "What the fuck did you just?"
So good.
That kind of reminds me. I'm sure we all saw the Monday night game, Denver against the Chargers, and at the end, Dustin Hopkins he gets interviewed, and the first thing he says, and again, I'm not being like believing, but immediately he says, "I want to, say thank you to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ." If Dustin Hopkins or any other guy who does that, because there's a lot of guys in sports who do that. I need the same stuff when something goes bad. If the next time Dustin Hopkins has a game-winning field goal and he misses it badly, I want the sideline reporter right on him, and I want him to say before anything else, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for. Because it reminded me of I forget if it was Derrick Rose's first or second knee injury when he was with the Bulls. It might have been the second one when he tore it against the Portland. And I think afterwards, I don't know if it was directly after the game or maybe a few days later when he was talking to the media, but I recall him saying like, man, this is just all part of God's plan. It's like, hey, Derrick Rose, he stayed consistent.
Yeah.
Stay consistent.
Let's be honest.
God's giving props to when things were going good, but when things went bad, it's like, hey, the guy upstairs has a plan.
I always tell our players this. God, isn't rooting for anybody. He's just rooting for a good ball game. First off, he didn't give 2 shits who wins, right? But at the same time, like it is, you could actually tell who, like, again, because there are dudes that they won't even do an interview if they lose. At least you got some guy that's like, yeah, this is, God's plan is to teach me something. I'm going to learn something here. Perhaps it's, to hit the cage or maybe the weight room, but whatever it is. But those are some of my favorite quotes. I mean, that's Russell Wilson last night or Monday night, the other night. I mean, that was 100% him because he's got like a quad injury now with his shoulder. But it cracks me up too that when they say this stuff. But I'm going to interrupt one more time because we did talk about Bob Costas. This is actually my favorite Bob Costas call.
I know.
Baseball, Harry Coyle, 1-1 pitch. He hits it to deep left center. Look out! Do you believe it? It's gone!
So I want to say rest in peace to Bruce Sutter, the man who gave up that home run to Ryan Sandberg, and one of the greatest afternoon experiences I've ever had watching baseball with my Aunt Zell, my great Aunt Zell, who passed away obviously a long time ago because she was old. But that was that's a call right there. That was old Bob. See, the younger generation seeing Bob Costas now and going, this guy's a snoozer. Bob Costas at one point was the standard, along with Al Michaels, for any kind of broadcasting event, whether it was baseball, the Olympics, whatever. He was really good. He's just
he called him Josh Naylor. He's a winner in my book.
Time is fleeting. Our brains are devolving as we age every day. I'm living proof of that as well. But that's but you can
Also,
all
pink eye. Got pink eye.
Thank God for the journey and
got pink eye during the what Olympics was that?
oh yeah,
that's a tough scene. Like pink eye, obviously bad enough. But when you're just like on NBC, being seen by millions and millions, like, oh, that guy is pink eye.
he was. He was like, forget it.
So other postseason thoughts. We'll get to the NASCAR match in a bit because NASCAR is popping off on my feed.
Damn right,
it happened.
It had a big weekend this weekend.
Yeah,
Teaser.
Okay. Before we'll get to that in a minute. So any other playoff thoughts here? So it's Astros, Yankees, ALCS, Padres, Phillies, NLCS. A lot of big upsets, but Astros, they're still getting it done. Poor Mariners. Shout out to that 18-inning game. 1-0. That was brutal. So who do you guys got in each championship series?
Astros in 6. Then I keep picking against the Phillies, and it keeps biting me in the ass. So I want to say the Dodgers by my head saying go with, or not the Dodgers, the Padres. But because of that, I'm going against my instincts. I've been wrong the last 2 times, and I'm picking the Phillies, even though I want to pick the Padres.
Kevin, you've been on the Phillies since the playoffs started.
Astros in 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just so hard for me. Honestly, I'm with the American League. Screw the Yankees. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't do it with Yankee fans. I can't do it with Mets fans. So it has to. It's by default. It's like voting for the lesser of two evils. Sucks. So, but
you want the cheaters to win?
I don't give 2 shits who wins the AL. I want the NL to win the World Series. So with the Phillies, obviously there's the Vegas boys. You got Bryce. You got Bryson Stott. You've got, obviously our guy, Kyle Schwarber, who hit a ball that hasn't landed yet last night. He hit that ball so hard that pitcher's mom died. And you have, a team that was down. They're one of the really rare examples. I think the Marlins of 2003 actually might be one of them too, where if they fire a manager midseason and it really rocks off a fantastic run, it doesn't happen. This is example 1 of out of 15. So everyone's like, look, see, they fired him in the 1. Yes, that's 1 for 15. Do you want that hitter in the batter's box? No, it doesn't work that way. Look at the Angels. But you see these 2 teams. Then you see the Padres who went all in. I told you, I texted you guys this in our DM. When the Padres were playing, and it was game 1 against the Dodgers, and I actually messaged you. I don't know if you remember this, but I'm like, this series feels like the 2015 Cubs-Cardinals series, where the Cubs finally got that Cardinal monkey off their back by beating the Cardinals in the playoffs. And it was like, it opened up like a 5-year period where the Cubs were just better than the Cardinals. And it was like, screw you, it's like if the Bears were better than the Packers for like half a decade. It felt wonderful. It would feel wonderful. I don't know about that if ever going to happen, but the Jordan Love era can start sooner or later. But that's a cool special spot. I'm happy the Dodgers are out again, but I don't know, man. I think I got to go with the Phillies just because I'm rooting for the Vegas boys. Philly fans are so also, other than the group that hangs out at Patty's Pub, they're also kind of insufferable sometimes. But this would be a cool year for Philadelphia.
Definitely home field advantage, though. Like, that crowd was loud against the Braves. Like, certain crowd, all playoff crowds are loud, but there's some where you can tell.
You can tell the difference. Yep.
Like the White Sox, that first blackout game, the game 3, you can tell it was different. The Phillies, it's the same thing. Like they're into it, and that is like if you're facing an elimination game in Philly, that's tough. And we saw how the Braves handled it. They crumbled under the pressure.
Big spot right there. Wow. Presley's.
I've always liked, or ever since he came to the Cubs, I've always liked Yu Darvish, rooting for him. So if the Phillies win, I'd be cool with that too. Like Schwarber, like Harper. Like I think Cubs fans and White Sox fans, we can just always be like, "What the fuck? Why didn't you sign Bryce Harper?" That's gonna go on for years and years and years.
I said the same thing about Schwarber and even Castellanos. I know he's had a down year, but like to say like there's two guys on the team.
The other thing I was going to say is I like that the 4 teams remaining right now is the Houston Astros, New York Yankees, San Diego Padres, Philadelphia Phillies. These are 4 teams that have gone all in. Their payrolls are high, so we don't get to hear the bullshit. Oh, you don't have to see you can be Cleveland. You don't have to spend a lot of money to win. Like no, it's good to sign good players, people. The San Diego Padres. If you look at the Padres, I don't think they have like any like homegrown guys. Like, they're all mostly free agents and trades.
Yeah, because Tatis is I don't know, out
Trade?
riding his motorcycle or suspended or whatever.
Yeah, man, he's not even playing.
But look at these two. When you look at these rosters, Yu Darvish traded prior to the 2020 season. Was it 20 or 2021? 2021 season. Kyle Schwarber non-tendered before the 2022 season. Anthony Rizzo traded to the Yankees during the 2021 season. Those 3 guys are difference makers on 3 different teams right now that are playing in the postseason. And if those guys could have been on this Cubs roster, imagine where the Cubs would be today right now if they just would have not tried to have to basically reboot the entire computer and instead go for it and say, fuck it, when the window closes, then we'll start. But they didn't. They closed the window when there was probably a year left to at least go for it. I mean, let's be honest. The day that Yu Darvish was traded, the Cubs thing was in. That was the day it ended. It ended with the Darvish trade.
The bigger thing was because they immediately kneecapped the starting rotation.
Yep.
So you took your ace. You took your ace. You replaced him with a shitty pitcher, Zach Davies, and then you're like, we're giving these guys a shot. And then like your fucking number 3 pitcher was Jake Arrieta.
And
you didn't give this team a shot.
You got to give credit to the guys on the Cubs roster up until June. They were in first place all the way up until the no-hitter against the Dodgers, and then the wheels came off after that. Was it a Sunday night or a Saturday night? And then at that point, everything just fell apart. But they kept it together for almost 3 months without that because they wanted to win. And the Cubs, because I know KB had said the goal was to play so well that by the trade deadline, that we were still in it at the trade deadline, and they had to do the opposite. They had to make moves because we're right there. And they almost made it. They were a month out from having that squad where they were going to force Jed's hand and they were going to have to go for it. And unfortunately, that I don't know if it was if someone was like pulling on the earlobe or whatever and say, hey, Rossi, let's get some shit lineups out there. Let's go. Or if it was just a.
No, again, as much as I love those guys, they kind of just shit the bed.
Everyone fell apart. Yeah, it just died. They ran out of gas.
So I think I'm going to go with the Astros. I mean, they're just so fucking good. Again, the cheating stuff, but I mean, I think it's 8 years in a row now. Championship series. They're just a good fucking organization.
They've proven that.
It's crazy what happens when you have a first overall pick like
they
6 years
lose
in a row.
you lose a star like Correa, no problem. You lose a guy like Springer, no problem. Like that's how you can tell they're a well-run organization. Because
didn't Michael Brantley get hurt? Hasn't he been injured like the whole year?
Yeah,
or almost the whole year.
Sure helps
they haven't missed a beat.
Right, because that's what the Cubs screwed up. Is the Cubs didn't draft well. Jed and Theo. Well, again, if you're going to give Theo guff for it, you got to give Jed guff for it. If you're going to give Jed credit for now and all the trades he's done now and everything that's going now, then you're going to also give him the discredit for later because either he's all of it or he's none of it. You know what I mean? And they screwed that up. The Cubs screwed that up royally, man. They had an opportunity. Look at the Dodgers. They're resurgent. Look at the Astros and their resurgence. They kept a healthy minor league system the entire time. And it shows now because you can let a Correa go and you've got prospects and it's a next man up mentality throughout the organization. And it worked. The Dodgers still have 7 players in the top 100 prospects. Think about that for a second.
Yeah. I mean,
the other thing that's creepier than that is that the fact that Baltimore Orioles, as good a season as they had, will have the number 1 pick. Or will they have the number 1 pick? Or no, it's a lottery this year, isn't it?
It's a lottery. Yeah, they're going to be drafting like in the middle.
But don't they have somebody else's pick?
Do they?
I thought they had somebody else. I thought that they were like the projected. Oh no, they had the first pick this year. Excuse me, they had the first pick this year. Sorry, and then they were contending. Sorry about that. Yeah.
That was the great story about the Orioles, that they had the number 1 pick and then they were still like kind of in the wild card race. And then I'm still gonna go with the Padres. I still like the Padres a lot. So it'd be good. Also, I don't know. Again, if the Phillies win, cool. But I like the Padres. And then,
hey, I got a question, Aldo.
Let's go Padres over Houston.
Okay.
I'm taking Houston in 5.
Anybody in the NL over the AL?
Oh, you're gonna be with Zoe wearing those hats.
What's up?
He's gonna be wearing an AL hat. You're gonna be wearing an NL hat.
No, Zoe wants an NL hat.
Oh, he wants to see both
for
of you
an
doing it.
NL team to win, but if I'm just going pit, like I think the Astros are just, I think they're the cream of the crop on the Final Four.
They're just very good.
I want to buy my friend Al that American League umpire's hat. That's all. It'd be great. You got a hat with your name on it, man. That's sweet.
All right.
But
So
I got a
it's
question for you, real quick, Aldo.
Go ahead.
It's a name that's not being dropped as much because probably. I mean, you think he's probably going to re-sign with Atlanta, but what about Dansby Swanson? Why is his name not being mentioned right now?
No, he is, but I think
not
a
seeing
lot
it thrown
is
out
because the Braves have done a good job of just re-signing like all their guys that they like. I think not the expectation, but I think there's a lot of buzz like they really like him. They want to re-sign him. And then, I mean, I think I talked about it briefly last week, but those numbers they just kind of remind me of Javier Baez.
Well, he's got what? Let's look at it. He's got a 5.7 WAR.
He's had a great year offensively this year. Shout out to him. But overall, it's kind of like the defense is great. The defense is better than Baez was at shortstop for those years. He is a top defender at shortstop, but the offense scares me.
25 plus homers the last two seasons.
Great year, but just 1 year.
But 167 strikeouts and 182 strikeouts. But he does take walks, 52 walks, 49 walks. I mean, that's not horrible. His on-base percentage is, last year was 311. That's not great.
Yeah,
the band, on the other hand, is great, but not the stat.
No, look, what is his career on-base percentage?
321.
Yeah. I mean, that's just Javi's like in the low 300s, I think.
Let's see. Javi's career OBP is 278. Oh, no, that was this year. Sorry. My bad. His career is 302. So he's better than Javi.
300s.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying though, like this. I love Javier Baez, but I didn't want to give him a long-term deal after the last couple of years. And the same thing.
You know my opinion of why
I don't want to get. And like it's not even about Dansby Swanson. It's about the other guys that are available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think
they're just better.
I think Correa and this is the scary part because Jed did say it, or maybe he didn't say it, or someone said he alluded to it. He's not going to go beyond 5 years with any contract, which almost eliminates Correa because he wants a 7 year.
I think that's pitching.
Were they only talking about pitching?
That's more pitching.
Because that was a red flag to me. By the way, kudos to the Cubs because you've heard me bitch about it, and Zoe hates when I bitch about it. But the Cubs did drop season ticket prices today by what? 18%? No,
5.1%.
5.1%. Yeah. So it's like $18 a game, I think maybe, or something like that. There's 18 was involved in something. But Cubs dropped ticket prices. I know the White Sox raised it, but hey, congratulations. That was a good move. I applaud that move. That's a no one wants to, which scares me because now I feel like they're not going to spend, and they're like, yeah, well, that's why. Because
that's the thing. You can take it the other way. Why are they lowering the prices? Because people stop showing up. And people aren't as being like, yeah, I'll renew, or like, yeah, I want season tickets.
Showed up this year. They were a dog shit team, and people showed up. They were selling out. Like,
no, but their attendance
they took a dip from what
the attendance took a dip. It was a noticeable dip.
Oh, let's see. Attendance.
It was a noticeable dip because they're like, oh shit.
They were still in the top 10 in the major leagues, but from what they usually get, it did drop.
No, actually, it went up 8,000 per game from last year.
No, but last year they had there were some games where they were limited attendance.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it a little different. So, yeah.
No, their attendance went. They're like
up a lot.
There's a lot of games too. Like you could middle of the week, like on game time, you'd like look, and there'd be people just trying to unload those things. Yeah. Like you could get cheap Cubs tickets for the first time in forever.
Kudos to the Cubs, though, too. They've really made a great progress from the 1890 Cubs, where they had average of 1,386 people. per game at Westside
I mean,
Park.
that's a lot. I mean, there's
The softball field on the right.
People were dying just by getting sneezed on back.
I mean, that's look average. Yeah, average attendance. I mean, obviously 2020 doesn't matter. You did have the take a while to get into the stands thing with that, but 3206. Yeah, that's the lowest attendance. This was the lowest attendance since 2014. But
and then what happened right in 2014? They started to spend, and then
36,000 in 2015, 39,000 in 2016, but still 32,000 a game for a team that was.
I know it's still ridiculous.
20 games under 500 for like most of the season. That's a con, man. Again, if Cub fans really wanted to protest, we wouldn't be able to because people are still going to the games. It doesn't matter. I love Crawley to death. Crawley's one of my dudes, but Crawley will go and spend every dollar he has in the Cubs. It doesn't matter win or lose. It doesn't matter front office moves or not. He loves the Cubs more than he loves anything else, and I appreciate that, but it ain't going to help. Those types of fans are great when the Cubs are winning, but they drive you nuts when they're not because you're like, bro, can you at least take a stand real quick? And I know he's frustrated, but you vote with your wallet. That's the only thing that speaks.
That's the tough part about fandom as a whole, because we all enjoy stuff at a different. Because like there are fans who just like it's the Cubs. That's their team that they liked since they were kids, and they just like the Cubs. Mm-hmm. Like if they win, cool. If they like, obviously they prefer if they win rather than lose. But if they lose, like you feel bummed out. But like we do have to realize, guys, like we are in the minority of, or maybe not minority, but not. I wouldn't say we are in the majority of like. Most fans do not keep up day to day. Most fans don't know the number 5 prospect in the minor league systems for the teams. They don't know. They don't really keep up with like the news and rumors.
And going to a game at Wrigley is an experience, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Look, even for Sox fans, it's like we're going to the game. Man.
I will never tell, and like I get like the fan, like you vote with your wallet, like you said, but I'm never gonna tell someone, hey, like don't show up to boycott. Like if it's a nice day in July, I'm going to the game. When the Sox were ass in 2016, I was going to like 10 games a year.
Baseball's
cheaper tickets. Yeah.
Well, see, that's it. You buy them through a secondary market. Someone already bought it. I'll pay. Give me $5. I'll go. That's great. Yeah. But here's the thing: is I can't judge in that sense either, because I remember the Jim Essien era when I was in high school, and I felt like I just won the lottery that I got to go to opening day on a team that I knew that was going to be terrible. But I'm like, I get to go to opening day. I had to also run I had a 10-mile penance because I missed practice. My coach let me go. It was my birthday, and Greg Maddux. I was going to see Greg Maddox's first start as a Brave, and my coach. I basically said, "Coach, I'm going to be missing practice for the game," and he's like, "All right, thank you for being honest. You're going to owe me 10 miles by the end of the week." I went and ran the 10 miles in 2 days. I'm like, "Thank you, Coach. You're the best." And I went and watched Maddux, and that was a cool game because even though Maddux beat the Cubs 2-1, I think it was, the standing ovation that Maddux got coming off the field was one of the most memorable experiences I had as a game. And that's baseball. You know what? When the team's bad, you can also teach your kids or your friends how to keep score. There's a lot of things. There's a great way to teach the game when the teams are bad. If you're there for that reason. Now, if you're there just getting drunk, like it's a little different.
Like both Cubs fans.
Yeah, well, hey, that's in the bleachers. I'm telling you stories right now that my dad and my grandpa didn't drink a single drop while they were at Cub games, and they taught me how to keep score. I learned how to keep score at Cub games.
As they were dodging old styles on the way back.
Here's another point. Like,
I can grab the scorebook from the Babe Ruth called shot game. It's right there up on my shelf right now. I can grab that because my family's always kept score. Like it's always, I'm that dude that really actually would love to keep score at a game. That's a cool part of baseball. That's the love of the game stuff. It has no bearing on winning or losing. You're going there to watch good baseball. And I can tell you that as a baseball bum, that is great for me. I'm just going to pay pay cheap prices or ask for comps because I don't want to pay money to see that crap.
Here's another point in the comments. Like, you just like watching the younger guys play and that's the other part. If you do follow like the minor leagues a lot, and like you finally see like a Nelson Velasquez come up, you see Morel come up, you see like Rivas come up, like PJ Higgins, guys that you like. If you follow the daily of minor league baseball, you guys can follow these guys since they're like 16, 17, 18 years old sometimes. That's always a fun aspect too.
And the information age makes that even more enjoyable because we have more access to that stuff. I mean, again, old guy screaming at cloud. When I was in high school, I'd have to go buy Baseball America to find out what the hell was going on anywhere. I didn't even have internet. The internet wasn't even there yet until I got to college. AOL dial-up. Shuge9 at AOL.com. My dad still has pappyfid at AOL.com as his email. I swear to God. He still has.
Kevin, you have like an old ass email.
I have an MSN. So mine was like 2001, 2002. Yeah, I'm afraid to like. I am stuck there too. I am my dad.
Me and Zoe thought you were like telling a joke when you sent us your email in the group chat one time. We're like, wait.
Nope. I'm afraid I will lose too many cool things that I had like subscriptions to, and it probably doesn't matter. I mean, I have a Gmail, I have other stuff, I have other emails obviously too, but that one's my that's my fantasy email that I use for fantasy for football too. But no, I mean, baseball is such a beautiful game that is hard. Again, it's an abusive relationship because you want to make sure the owner knows that you're not happy, but the owner is going to keep doing what he does because he knows that you're going to still show up, and it's a cycle of abuse, really. That's why you need a good owner.
And that's the thing. Despite all that, playoff baseball, I'd still prefer that. Give me that.
I'm about to instant message on AOL instant message. Tickle me 96 times. Your sister. We're like, hey.
I've been 69 times. Have you
been watching the new episodes of Full House?
For the moment that everyone's been waiting for.
Yes. Let's go.
We're about to start NASCAR Minute.
All right. For those of you that are still up and bearing with us here, we got a good NASCAR minute. It was in Vegas this week. I almost went down. The airlines prevented me with their damn high prices. But it was still a hell of a race. Let's get right to it. This is kind of the story of the race. Bubba Wallace, he won stage 1. He had a fast car in his McDonald's Toyota. Stage 2, he's trying to get back up into the front. He's got a lot of speed. So now Kyle Larson, this will set the stage here. Kyle Larson's the most talented driver in the field. 2021, he won 10 races. He's good. He pulls a lot of video game style moves. He's trying to go 3 wide. He goes 3 wide. Kevin Harvick's stuck in the middle. The beer man doesn't like it, so he lifts, gets out of the way. Kyle Larson keeps running up the track. Who's there? It's that McDonald's Toyota. McBubba, he sees him. He could lift. He's like, I ain't lifting. So Larson runs him into the wall. His car slaps the wall. Bubba's pissed. He's like, that son of a bitch. So he just takes a left into the straightaway, gets into Larson's car. Larson goes flying, and they're going 180 miles an hour. Bubba Wallace probably could have killed him had he have backed into the wall. Luckily, he pinballed off another poor sap, Christopher Bell, who was just an innocent bystander who happened to be in the playoffs at the time too, broke his car. He's out of the race. So Larson goes spinning. Bubba goes spinning. Bubba's still pissed, though, that the fact that Larson ran him into the wall. Larson, he was trying to pull off a good move, ran out of talent. So Bubba, he gets out of his car. He kind of has like that meme where he's like, oh shit, here we go again. You can tell. Walks towards Larson. Tail of the tape here because everyone knows what's going down. He's walking across an active racetrack, which is like kind of a big no-no. Tail of the tape. Wallace, 5'6", 165. Really, though, if you look at that fire suit on him, he's a couple Big Macs from being like 200. Like, he barely can fit in that thing. Kyle Larson, also 5'6", but 135. Bubba's got a huge advantage. Larson doesn't want any of this smoke. Larson gets out of the car. Bubba puts his hands up. It's on. He gives him a good shove, and Larson's like, hey, man, what the hell? He gives him another shove against the car. He's cussing him out. After a couple of shoves, Larson's like, dude, like, I want nothing to do with this. So Bubba can't throw hands. We really didn't get the fight, but Bubba Wallace just finished making an ass of himself on the track. He tries to like walk away. Then safety guy's like, hey, no, you have to go like in the ambulance. He's like, get the hell off of me or whatever. And then after the race, they're like interviewing him. And he's like, oh, yes, I just had steering issues, which is the one smart thing he said because he didn't admit to just left hooking him, which really he did. But yeah, so we had some NASCAR beef. Now on to the actual race itself. Ryan Blaney, he is a playoff driver. He is the only playoff driver in the field that didn't win a race this year, which was crazy because we had 16 different winners. So I'm rooting because my guy's out for Ryan Blaney just because I want the guy to win the championship to be the guy that didn't win a race, which I think would be funny for the way the season's going. So his car's pretty fast. He's running second, 39 laps. He's trying to punch his ticket to the championship. It's the round of 8. There's 3 races. You win, you're automatically in the championship 4. So he's trying to get there. All of a sudden, he has an issue. He hits the wall, goes sliding across the track. His car goes up in smoke, and so does his chances of winning. So they stack him back up. They go again. Now, Daniel Suarez, my guy, he's having a pretty good day. Finished 3rd in stage 1, 3rd in stage 2. He's running up front once again. And damn Tyler Reddick, he cuts his nose off, gets some dirty air, his nose pops loose, he goes sliding. He's out now, too. So finally, sucks for him. 4 laps to go. His teammate, Ross Chastain, he is in the playoff. Team Trackhouse, Pitbull's team. So now this is the guy I'm rooting for. Chastain's up front. He's got older tires. Who's behind him? Joey Logano. He's got 4 fresh tires. Logano's bearing down on him. Chastain with 4 to go. Both of them know they need to win to get to the next round. He's doing everything he can to stop him. So he's putting all the moves trying to block him. Dirty air gets in Logano's way. He's pulling out all the stuff. So Chastain now realizing he has older tires, he tries to take the high line and build some momentum as Logano tries to slide draft him. Gets a bit too high. Here comes Logano. Slide job out in front. Cuts off the nose. And Logano off to the races. He wins the race. Chastain tries to fight back. Could not. So Joey Logano, the serial killer, the most aggressive driver in the field. He's going to Phoenix for the championship. We got 2 races left. 3 more spots remaining. So it's setting up to be an exciting finish. Yep, there he is. There's Joey. But yeah, a hell of a race. There you go.
That's a substitute teacher right there, Logano.
Yeah.
That was a good NASCAR minute.
Wait.
Oh,
Hit the music. Why isn't it hitting? Hit the fucking. Someone hit the music.
impressive. He had a stretch in July. And I was talking about it in the podcast where it was like the Ross Chastain doesn't give a fuck tour. He was just wrecking anyone and everyone near him. And Logano has a history for being aggressive too. So when you saw the 2 up front, like racing for the playoff spot, you're like, oh, something's going down. And surprisingly, both of them raced like really clean. So it was kind of refreshing to see him not play bumper cars. So it was a hell of a race they had there in Vegas. Of course, Bubba Wallace throwing a temper tantrum, stole all the headlines, but Kyle Larson was asking for it. And if you look up Kyle Larson, why he got in trouble a couple years ago, you'll know why.
Well, Mitch, we've got another one in February. I would assume it's February. It's usually February, late February here in Vegas. So maybe next time you come and you do a live NASCAR minute from Vegas. This time we missed it this time, but
we will get it. Yes,
we will get one. We will get a NASCAR Mitch Vegas style. Yeah, that's happening.
Yep.
There. We lost Aldo though. So speaking of NASCAR minute, Aldo gave up. He tapped out. No. Well, that's good. Well, we can fill some time. So for with NASCAR too, what are the last 2 races left? So everybody that's not named Yadog knows what to expect the next 2 weekends while they're watching fantasy football on one screen and then a lot of left turns on the other screen. What are the next ones?
This is like Pinwheels After Hours. I kind of like it. So Homestead in Miami, Florida is the next one, which is a 1.5 mile track. So the new car they have a new car, the next gen car. There's been a lot of complaints about it this year, but it's been very good on these intermediate tracks, they call them. So like 1.5 miles, which Miami is. So I think that's going to be a great race down there. And then the one after that is Martinsville, which is a short track, which can create a lot of drama just because short track racing tends to be a lot of bumping and banging. And when there's only one spot in the playoffs left, that's where things kind of get interesting around there. But the new car hasn't been great on the short track, so I think Homestead's going to be the big one. And then the championship race is in Phoenix, so there'll be 4 drivers in that last race, and it's kind of just a winner take all. Whoever finishes the highest in that Phoenix race wins the championship.
Okay, and then there's not like a championship race, or is there a championship race?
The one in Phoenix is the championship race.
Oh,
So Martinsville. So the round of 8 is kind of like the semifinal basically. So Vegas is the first one in the round of 8. Homestead's the second one, and then Martinsville is the third and final race, and then it's the championship in Phoenix.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not sure. I don't think Aldo's coming back. I think we lost Aldo.
He said it's green furrows. Which is an excuse for didn't want to listen to NASCAR. And honestly, I don't blame him. So God bless all you people that are still listening to this point.
I feel like he had a Lamar Jackson emergency, and he's just not telling us.
Dave,
he probably had some Hershey squirts and had to take a run for it. But so I guess that we'll kind of put a bow on this one then tonight. I know Aldo wishes he could say good night, but he's pooping like Lloyd Christmas or like Harry Dunn after drinking Lloyd Christmas tea. But from Aldo, me, and Mitch, do you have any final thoughts about anything going on for the next couple of weeks? What to look for White Sox fans, or any kind of last words for White Sox fans or baseball fans in general?
That's all. That's all I can say. Hang in there. It's going to be a long off season. Hang in there.
Okay, well, for Matt NASCAR Mitch, for Southside Zoe, who is currently with Ponyboy Curtis saving orphans in a fire, and for Aldo, who is currently dropping a number 3 in an upper decker. This has been K-Fids too as well, but thanks for tuning in tonight. Make sure you guys smash the like button, give us a follow, and we will see you guys next week. And we'll have we might have at least a pretty close to decided NL and ALCS. So thanks for tuning in, and have a great week, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
And have a good week. Take care.